Hello everyone, my name is John Manning, and I'm here to talk to you today about something that is kind of a personal subject for me, drug addiction. Now, I'm not going to talk about like all drug addiction or anything like that. I'm going to talk about one specific type of addiction that is becoming a pandemic in the world today, especially with younger kids and minors, ranging from the ages of 9 or 10 all the way up to mid 30s and stuff. But primarily in children is where it's the most prominent, and that's the addiction to DXM. DXM is an abbreviation for dextromethorphan, which is the active ingredient in most cough medicines. And odds are you probably have a source of DXM somewhere in your house, like Robitussin or Corsedin cough and cold, or even like Mucin XDM or something like that. If you check the box or you check the active ingredients in your drugs, then most things actually do have DXM in them. There's dextromethorphan. And the idea is if you take a whole bunch of it and you overdose on it, then that's when the drug type or the PCP or acid type effects take place. So yes, you can actually visually hallucinate, and you get a body buzz similar to PCP, or maybe even a little bit similar to DMT. But that's the kind of things that kids are doing. They're overdosing on DXM, and it's just really, really dangerous stuff. It can kill you. It can kill you very quickly. Now, I've talked about a little bit about what it is and everything. I want to talk about what it did to me. Okay, so like I said, I'm a DXM addict. I have been for about 4 or 5 years. I haven't actually taken it in a long time. I'm not really sure how long. Well over a year. And I've been coming off of it gradually since shit hit the fan. Okay, so I basically ruined my body, and I knew that I was killing myself, and I checked myself into a rehabilitation center. And even after that, I still continued to do it. Like after I was locked in a little 8x8 room voluntarily for a little over a month. I came out and I started doing it a little bit, not as heavily, but it wasn't until I went to Job Corps that I was really able to get that under control. And the reason is because I completely removed myself from society and completely removed the possibility of me getting my hands on it. Now, even in Job Corps, a couple of times I was able to get some, and it was just the need to do it was so strong that even though I knew that I was facing the possibility of getting kicked out of this wonderful free school institution, I still did it. I still did it. And like I said, the only reason that I'm not actively doing it right now is because I have a very strong support group and a fiance who loves me and doesn't want me to die, who I don't want to disappoint. But let me talk a little bit about what it did to me. So I was about 18 or 19 years old, and I met this girl, and I don't want to talk bad about her, but she was the first one to introduce me to DXM, and I have the utmost respect for this girl. And like I said, I don't want to talk bad about her. She was like the first girl I ever loved, and that's a story in and of itself. But yeah, she introduced me to DXM, and from the very first moment that I ever took it, it was like wildfire. I just wanted to do it all the time. And I got to the point where I was doing it every single day. And my method of taking DXM was I would get triple C's, or Skittles is what they're called, and that's Corsedin cough and cold, which has 16 tablets in a pack and about 30 milligrams of DXM per tablet. So I would take all 16 of those tablets, and that was it. I'd be like super, super, super high. And that first feeling, that first buzz that I got, it was over from there, because I actively seeked it. I actively sought to see that same high over and over and over again. And 16 pills a day. Okay, so for about 2 years I did this on a day-to-day basis. 16 pills a day. Graduated from 16 pills to 20 pills, and then on up to 40 pills, and even up to 60 pills. I did 60 pills quite often. I mean, there was a span there where I would take 60 like every other two or 3 days at a time, and in between those I would do just like little 8 to 16. And so you can imagine what kind of side effects this had on my body. But I don't even want to talk about that yet. I want to talk about the mental problems that I had developed because of doing so much of this stuff. So like I said, there in the beginning, I had this girl who introduced me to it, and we had some fun, just being young, being stupid, and that kind of stuff. But like I said, I mean, I took to it way too hardcore. I was doing it every single day, and she eventually stopped. She wanted me to stop and begged me to stop, but I would not stop. And there were even occasions where I practically forced her to do it with me. I'm not going to lie about that. I practically forced her to do it with me. And this went on for the whole entirety of our relationship, okay? Now, I've always been a naturally aggressive person. I'm very aggressive. I got in a lot of fights when I was a kid and everything, but as I got older, I learned a little bit more self-control, and I could control that aggressive nature a little bit better. But as soon as I got on DXM, that all went away. And I physically and mentally abused this girl to the point to where I know that I've put some, some permanent ramifications, some permanent psychological damage on her. And I don't want to pin all of my problems on this drug. I definitely take responsibility for being an asshole. I don't want you to think that I'm just, using this as an excuse, because I'm definitely not doing that. There had to be some kind of underlying predefined thing in my brain for me to even do that in the first place. And probably, I mean, I grew up in a broken home. I witnessed from a very young age my father abusing my mother, and even some abuse to me and my older sister. And from the very beginning, I swore an oath that I would never become like that. That would never be me. I'm never going to be my father. And in despite of that, through using DXM, that, like I said, that aggressive nature just completely, it was overwhelming. It came so fast that there was no way that I can control it. And some of the things that I did, like I said, there was physical abuse. I slapped her a couple times, choked her a couple times, and I physically abused her. But there was also the mental abuse. I mean, there would be times that she would wake up in the morning and be like, "Good morning, baby. How did you sleep?" And I would be like, "Shut the fuck up, bitch. I don't want to hear your shit today." And that's the kind of shit that I said to her on a day-to-day basis. And even after all of this started, she stayed with me for like another year and a half after that. So that speaks to her character. And like I said, I really want to point that out. Even though that she is the one that introduced me to the drug and she did it in the first place, this is definitely all my fault. And she didn't she stopped doing it and everything, and got on her with her life. Well, I mean, aside from the physical abuse and the mental abuse that I did to her, there were also other people in my life that I did that to. There was my mom. There was one specific time to where I came literally this close to physically attacking my mom. And in the swarm of things, my little sister me and her actually wound up getting into a physical altercation. And this kind of thing was something that like I couldn't even control. Like, even though I was doing it and I was lucid and I knew that I shouldn't be doing it, I did it anyway, and there was no way I could stop. And I definitely contribute a lot of that to my addiction to DXM and being on DXM at the time of these incidents. And so, I ruined my relationship with my family. I ruined my relationship with this woman, and I ruined my relationship with a bunch of my friends and a bunch of people around me. So, after all of that happened, and after the girl did finally leave me, there was just this, after that, I realized, what I was doing. I realized that I was killing myself. I realized that I was alienating everyone around me. And even though I had that in my mind, I still couldn't stop. I continued to do DXM, and I did it in more and more and more magnitude. Okay, so I was stricken with, grief and depression, and just all of that magnified 100-fold by the drug. So I mean, there would be times where I would just have crying fits. I would just cry like hell for no fucking reason in front of people and just be a pansy about everything, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. And I mooched off of my friends. I lived in my friends' houses and didn't pay rent and didn't do shit. All I did was lay in bed all day and take DXM and play World of Warcraft. And I was just a fucking parasite. That's all I was. That's all I was for a long time, until I finally got my addiction under control. But one of the main things, one of the main factors that it had on me was, like I said, there was a psychological imprint that the drug had on me, to the point to where I was physically fatigued, to the point to where when I would wake up, I didn't even want to be alive. And I mean, I've always had this outlook on life, like I love and appreciate life. And I've always had this outlook on people who want to commit suicide is like, why are you wanting to commit suicide when you have this wonderful gift of life? And that has always been my outlook on life. And even though I innately have this outlook, I had that feeling that I didn't want to be alive, and I wished for death on a day-to-day basis. And I felt that way until I took the medication, and I built up this physical dependency to the point to where I couldn't do any kind of physical activity whatsoever without taking DXM. And in the more amounts that I would take it, the worse the physical side effects were on me. And there was a point to where, like, I could not pee for a week. I mean, there's some embarrassing bathroom stories I could tell you, but I'm not going to get into that. But there was a point where I could not pee for a week, and my bladder, I guess, just swelled up to the point where I looked like I was pregnant. I mean, I had a full-on, belly that looked like I was pregnant. And fortunately, at that point in time, I just like passed out for like 6 days straight. I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I didn't do nothing. And finally I was able to go to the bathroom, and I, retrieved my health just a little bit. And like I said, this is, I could go on and on and on and on and on about the side effects that it's had on me. And one in particular, I mean, those of you who know me know that I am obsessed with technology, and I do videos about, how to program video games and websites and that sort of stuff. And I'm really, really good. But without, if I had never heard of DXM and I'd never done DXM, I guarantee you that I would be about 1,000% better. And that's because on my brain, it's definitely had a detrimental effect on my intelligence. Okay, so I mean, there's sometimes that you'll be talking to me, and almost like I have Alzheimer's, I'll forget completely what I'm talking about, stare off into space, and then I won't be able to resume the conversation until you bring me back to reality. You gotta wake up, John. And this is the kind of thing that I go through with my fiance Kiwi, and she'll let me know what a moron I'm being, and I have it all. I owe it all to DXM. And me being a grown man, I have these kind of side effects, and I still have these side effects in my body, to where my body doesn't function as it should. I've definitely lowered my lifespan. I've definitely destroyed my health because of all the pills that I've done. And this is the kind of thing that children, I mean small children, are doing. And there's a very positive culture behind it. That's one of the things that's most scary. I mean, I want to go through some of the side effects and like how you can tell if somebody's on DXM and everything. But I also want to show you this positive culture and how scary it is. So I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. And I'm going to open up a web browser. And I've just done a YouTube search here for DXM. And the really scary thing is there's about 2 or 3 videos here that are actually speaking against DXM. But the rest of them are just like people who are, videotaping themselves having trips, laughing about it, giving reviews on their trips, and that sort of stuff. And I mean, this particular video, I've watched this one. This one even has visual effects, like they made a movie out of tripping on DXM. And I mean, some of this stuff is just, there's not enough people who are outspoken against it. So I just want to show you a little bit. I'll show you this girl first. This is kind of what somebody looks like when they're on DXM, and you can hear evidence in their speech patterns. And if you just look at how intense her eyes are, and how big her pupils are, and how incoherent she is. I mean, you see how glassy her eyes are and everything. And I mean, this girl, I don't want to call her out like that, but I mean, she doesn't look like she's more than maybe 15 years old. Another really good video to show you what people look like is this one, because even though they made a movie out of it, I guarantee you these people are on DXM. I've convinced enough friends to do DXM with me to know what it looks like. This is what people look like. Look at his eyes, his mannerisms, and how he's talking. This is exactly what people look like when they're on DXM. Okay, I'm going to stop this right here because this video just gets ridiculous and stupider as it goes. But, I mean, those are just some of the apparent ways that you can tell that people are on DXM. They'll have really wide eyes, very impaired speech, slurred speech, and robotic movements. One of the terms that is pegged on this particular type of tripping is robo-tripping, and they don't call it robo-tripping because they're tripping on Robitussin or anything like that. They call it robo-tripping because their movements are almost like robots. You'll see people, you know, like moving like freaking robots, and they can't help it because that's actually a physical side effect that this drug does have on your body. And the thing is like if somebody's coming off of DXM, they're not going to have those kinds of side effects. You know, but if somebody who is normally an active person, if somebody is normally an active person and you find that they're sleeping in like super late, you know, don't want to eat, if they don't engage in any kind of physical activity and they just have the most trouble engaging in physical activity, especially if they've been doing it for a while, then you know you'll find that they'll be sweating profusely a lot more, and the more that they sweat, it's almost like it kicks back into the trip mode, and they'll say things and they'll do things that are you know, they're very questionable. You're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And that's actually a sign of people coming off of DXM. Another really disgusting way that you can tell is if somebody who is doesn't really have a lot of intestinal problems or anything like that, if you find that they're farting, if you find that they're farting a lot and very loudly, very smelly kind of farts, that's definitely another sign. That's a physical effect that DXM has on your body. And even to the point to where I've known people to poop on themselves. I mean, for real. I know it's disgusting, but that's what happens. And it's like it can come in either two forms. I mean, it'll either be just like straight liquid diarrhea for no reason, or it'll be like extremely solidified, very smelly kind of poop. And I mean, you're asking, how do you know this? I told you, I'm a freaking DXM addict. That's the kind of thing that happens. And intestinal problems are definitely a way that you can see. So let's say that if you suspect your kid or somebody to be on DXM, but they don't necessarily show signs of that, which can happen. I'll talk about that in a minute. Then challenge them to something physical. Challenge them to something physical and see how they perform. If you find that, you know, just the smallest task, like if you challenge them to a race and they're running and, you know, they stumble over literally nothing, or if they start sweating profusely or breathing very heavily, even though they're not normally like that, then that's definitely a sign that they're on DXM. Now, we viewed some of the examples of just the major side effects or the major signs that people can have being on DXM. That is definitely not always the case. There are some anomalies of people who can control that and people that can hide it from you. And the reason that I know this is because I'm one of them. During that 2-year span, there would be a lot of times where I would go to work and be surrounded by people, you know, all day long and be tripping balls on DXM and nobody would know. Okay, so I mean, there are definitely some people who can control that and remain coherent and remain able to talk appropriately to people and everything, you know, while they're tripping. And like I said, that was one thing that I was able to do. Motor skills, I didn't have that much effect on my motor skills. I didn't robo move a lot. One thing that I did a lot is I would take a whole bunch of DXM and drive, and I would go to the movies and stuff like that. And like that's not something that you should be able to do on DXM. People shouldn't be able to drive on DXM, and in fact, it's very, very dangerous if they do. But I found myself being able to have that kind of motor skill to where I could still coordinate my movements and everything to the point to where I could perform daily tasks. But if you asked me to run a race with you, there's no way in hell I would have been able to do that, and those symptoms would have shown in me. So if you suspect somebody, then definitely make them do something physical, make them move boxes, make them, like I said, challenge them to a race or something like that, and you will see the signs if they are on DXM. And another thing, I mean, just more about the psychological effect. My personal experience, one thing that I would do is I would take a bunch of DXM and I would go to the movies, and I would go see action movies and like horror films and stuff like that. And being on the drug, I was extremely, extremely impressionable. And so whatever the movie was, like if it was a serial killer film, I remember one time watching Saw 5. After the movie was over, I literally thought I could be a serial killer. Like, I thought that would be like a profession, like something I could do. And that is the kind of thought that I had until I came down. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, that's not me. But, the more I did this, and I did actually, I found the horror films extremely tasty on DXM, that kind of thing, it had a lasting effect. And, I don't know, I guess my aggressive nature mixed with being on DXM, stuff like that, very much led me to some very, very scary thought processes to where, like I was literally thinking and dreaming about killing people. And, that's not something that I want to be. That's not something I want to do. I very much consider myself a humanitarian. And even though I've always considered myself to be something of a humanitarian, those are the kind of thought processes that I had. And like I said, I mean, given the right conditions and given the right person using DXM, it's very possible that you yourself could be in danger being around someone who was on DXM. And the reason I say that is, like I said, I physically attacked my mother. The person who gave birth to me, the person who I love the most in this world is my mother. And I was able to physically attack her. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm a smoker too, so. But anyway, I'm just saying there's this kind of drug. This is extremely scary, and especially because kids are getting into this culture. Kids are the primary users of DXM, so please, 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 if you do nothing else with this video, if you see this video and just like, whatever, just think about that. I mean, if you've watched this video and you've sit here and listened to me talk, the only thing that I want to do is raise a little bit of awareness about all the kids that are doing this drug and how dangerous it is, and just tell you to educate your children about these kinds of dangers. If you need to, show them this video, and contact me if you want to talk. If you find somebody who's on DXM and you want them to talk to a former DXM user and get advice on how you can take steps to combat that addiction, I would be more than happy to offer my advice. Definitely rehab centers. Rehab centers are one of the best things that you could do. I mean, a lot of people talk bad about rehab centers and everything, but the thing is if you are confined in a place to where you do not have access to something that is so easily accessible, then you have a better chance to go through the DTs and to get off of it. And that's another thing too. DXM, you can definitely have DTs from DXM, and it's not always a good idea to just go straight cold turkey and come off of it, because you could suffer some serious damage by doing that. And if that's the case, I mean, talk to your doctor about like weaning you off, or seeing if you could get a substitute. And I mean, I don't recommend methadone to anybody, but I know that is a possible substitute for heroin. You just got to be careful not to become re-addicted or addicted to that substitute. Okay, so like I said, I mean, if there are DXM users out there who are watching this video and you're going to do DXM no matter what anybody tells you, let me just give you some advice. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to beg with you as a person. I'm going to beg you not to do that in the first place. But if there's nothing that I can do to tell you to stop, then I want to tell you, at least keep your doses small. Okay, don't take anything that is liquid. Liquid cough syrup. If you take a massive amount of liquid cough syrup, that's going to have a really bad effect on your liver and a really bad effect on your intestinal organs as well. So those farting problems and irritable bowel syndrome and everything, taking liquid would definitely contribute to that. Don't take Tylenol with anything that you do. Don't take Tylenol or alcohol with anything you do, because this is another way that you can just destroy your liver. Tylenol, especially if you see a Tylenol product with DXM in it, don't touch it. Find another source. If you are absolutely going to do DXM, then find another source. Don't take anything with Tylenol in it, because that will lead to liver cancer. Redosing. Don't redose, okay? So if you take DXM and you start tripping, then you wait, until your trip is almost through and you want to take more. Just fight it, man. Go to sleep, because redosing can cause you to die. It can cause your heart to stop. It can cause seizures and cerebral damage to your brain, okay? This can eat holes in your brain just like ecstasy can. All right? So again, if you're thinking about doing DXM, if you're gonna do it anyway, then I urge you, please get some help. And if you're a parent and you're worried about this kind of thing, which is primarily what I want to do, is I want to raise awareness to parents about this detrimental drug that kids are doing. Educate your children about the dangers, and make sure that they know that this is not like, even if it's just something that you want to try once. If you try it once and you're like me, you're going to be hooked. You're going to be hooked, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it could lead to your death. Okay? So again, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. If you've watched this video, then thank you very much for watching, and please share it with somebody so they can see. If like I said, I want people to know about how bad this is and how much positive culture is behind it and how ridiculous that is, okay? Because DXM, for one, it's like the only effective medication that you can have against coughing. Cough medicine, every cough medicine that is effective has dextromethorphan in it, and there's nothing we can do about it. No pharmaceutical company is going to outlaw DXM. It's just not going to happen. So this is the kind of thing that is always going to be a problem. And nowadays, if you go into a Dollar General or a Family Dollar, unless you actually, you look like unless you're a really small child, then they're not even going to ask for your ID to buy it, okay? They're going to ask you for your birthday, and they're going to program it into, or they're going to punch it into their little cash register, and that's it. I mean, 16, 17, 18-year-olds can go in here and buy cough medicine and just steal it right off the racks. And there's no way to take it off the shelves. There's no way to combat the market for it. Okay, so people need to be educated about the dangers and know what they're doing when it comes to this crazy, ridiculous, terrible, dangerous drug. Alright, so again, I'm John Manning, and if you have any questions, just let me know. My email address is john.manning89@gmail.com. And if you ask me a question, if you have any questions about this kind of thing, then email me and I'll definitely respond to you. So until next time.